What's up, everyone? This is The Drop. 5 things you need to know for Thursday, April 9th, 2020. Start this off on a sad note. We want to say rest in peace to John Prine. You can check out the link in our show notes for Jambase's tribute to him, along with a letter from his wife, Fiona. Just another person we've lost to this pandemic. His influence is pretty impressive. I just actually learned about John Prine a few years ago. I saw him in concert last year or 2 years ago. And I mean, if you don't know much about him, I mean, his songs have been covered by maybe more artists than any other artist. It's amazing how vast his influence was, from people like Johnny Cash and Bob Dylan to Jason Isbell, and almost any songwriter who's writing songs now will talk about John Prine. So a huge loss in the music community. And you can check out the Jambase tribute, and also I'll link to a piece that was written by Osiris podcaster Stephen Hayden, who had interviewed John in the past. So those are in the show notes. And then also, totally ironically, we had a new episode of the Tapes Archive come out today, which was a John Prine interview from 1997. So, 20 plus years ago, and he sounds happy and healthy, and it's a good thing to look back on if you want to hear John Prine's perspective, particularly on his career, but also how he formed his own label and how it all kind of worked out for him. And it's a pretty cool story. So check that out as well. There's a lot of links in that note there. Number 2, speaking of Stephen Hayden, 36 from the Vault goes Island Tour. Episode 7, so they briefly are diverging from their focus on the Dick's Pics series to talk about Fish. They talk about touch points between Fish and the Dead, but also really dive into the Island Tour, and particularly 4398, which of course is just incredible. The cool thing about this show, as I've mentioned before, is that Steven and his co-host Rob Mitchum, they have a really great knowledge of music broadly. They're Fish fans, they're Dead fans, but they really know a lot about music and about how music has changed and music in particular periods. So hearing them talk about Fish is really interesting to me, and this episode talking about the overlap and the divergence between Fish and the Dead is pretty cool. So they also just talk about how Fish's music changed over time and where they were during that Island Tour run. So that's a good one as well. We hope you enjoy that one. Number 3, the daily Soundcheck is back and focused on Big Cypress. So Mike Lawn Memo, who you might all know, he does this podcast where he goes through Fish soundchecks one by one. He talks about them. This one's a monster. Huge soundcheck, huge show, of course, Big Cypress. And we thank Mike for his work on this and for this episode. And of course, while we're on Big Cypress, I have to talk about After Midnight, the podcast series that we did on Big Cypress from last fall. 5 episodes, all available now, and I'll link to that in the show notes. All right, number 4, at 7 p.m. tonight, there will be a virtual Seder to benefit Conscious Alliance. Seth, who's the co-host of Inside Out with Turner and Seth, one of our Osiris podcasts, put this together. It's really cool. It'll be a video virtual Seder, 7 p.m. tonight, streaming through nugs.net, which we'll put a link to in the show notes. What Seth did, he got a bunch of artists to contribute readings, songs, little pieces that our editor, Eric, who actually edits this show, is going to put together into a big tribute to Passover. And for people who can't get together this year, we think this is a really cool way to bring people together. Among the submissions that Seth got, he got stuff from Scott Rogowski, Andy Frasco, Nat Kressman, Aaron Magner, Dan Leibowitz, Al from Mo, and many more people. So it's going to be a cool thing. It'll be funny. It'll be touching. It's a really cool thing that Seth put together. So check it out. And most importantly, it's a way to raise money for a good cause for the Conscious Alliance COVID-19 Response Fund. So we'll put a link in the show notes. That's going to be through nugs.net. So check that out. And thanks, Eric, and thanks, Seth, so much for putting this together. All right, and finally, number 5, No Simple Integration. So No Simple Integration is a collaboration between Melanie Schaefer of No Simple Road and Daniel Schenken of TAM Integration. So it's going to be a journey through the realms of yoga, meditation, and esoteric spirituality. It's going to be designed to be accessible and fun, but an online version of sort of a yoga dome at your favorite festival. So this is going to be a cool class. It'll be through our YouTube page, the Osiris YouTube page. So I'll put a link to that, but just go to Osiris Media on YouTube. and you can check it out. And yeah, this should be a really cool and nice way to wind your evening down with some yoga, some meditation, some conversation, and more. So thanks to Mel and to Daniel for doing this, and to No Simple Road for all the stuff you guys are doing during this crazy crisis. So that's everything for today, and we really appreciate you all tuning in, watching, listening. Share it with your friends. Hope you like the lighthouse behind me. And yeah, we'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks.